What is up, everybody? Alex106 here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about live set prep. I'm going to try and do a lot of videos on prepping for a live performance. And this one is all about shrinking the case down. If you'll notice in my eurorack case here, I do not have a mixer. And that is because I have decided to use ES9 by Expert Sleepers and Ableton as my mixer. I've taken the WMD Performance Mixer out of my case, which blasts me, I know. I love the thing, but I wanted some space back, and I really just wanted to experiment with this and see how small I could make my rig while still doing most of my stuff in the eurorack here and having a fun performative thing to do, I guess. A fun performative, performance. So over here I have the Launch Control XL. Pretty self-explanatory. 8 faders, 16 buttons down here, and then 3x8 knobs up here that can all do different things. In the factory setting, it's actually super useful, which is what I'm doing. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Yeah, I'm just going to go through. I was going to do a video basically like showing you like building it from scratch, my Ableton mixer. But I just decided that was way too much. I actually tried, and it was going to be like a 45-minute video. So I just decided instead I'm going to show you what I'm doing here, and then I'm going to eventually I'll upload some of the devices that I'm using here so you can use them. Maybe I'll upload the actual project too, just so you can look at it. But if you look at the screen right now, you can see I'm literally just blank. I'm not using clips. I do kind of hope to someday use, a few more tracks with clips, but I haven't really figured out exactly how I want to do that yet. So I'm just not focused on that. But this has been pretty cool, and it's been pretty effective, and I've got a lot of the same stuff that I would have in my 12U. Obviously, this is the sub-modular case. I love this thing. I do have the 12U version. But when it comes to traveling with that thing, it's just heavy. And there's no way you're going to get around 12U not being, or just 12U being heavy. It's heavy. I don't like to roll it around. And so I put it on a strap and I just have to lug it around. And it hurts my back and I'm just over it. So I've got some international travel coming up. I really didn't want to do that. So I just decided to shrink down as small as I can. The only problem with this case is that the lid's only like 2.5 inches thick, but that makes it super easy to carry, super easy to travel with. You just have to be mindful of your pet, the tall patch cables. I'm using lots of right angles, and my stackables, I'll just a lot of times just unplug those and lay them down flat. And then, yeah, all of the mixing is happening in Ableton. So if I just press play here, I also have a master clock. On Ableton, just on my master channel, I have the CV Tools clock here. That's going out of ES9. Out of 15 and 16, it is something to, pay attention to the manual with the ES9. These channels are actually like 9 through 16, even though they're labeled 1 through 8. That can be kind of confusing when you first get it. The output channels are not really correlated to what they look like on there. But yeah, so check this out. We press play here, and now we press play over there. It's filtered because I have a low pass filter on the master. I've got some effects going. But yeah, everything runs through there. And just with this factory setup, it's really cool because I've got sends here, A and B. I've got mutes down here. Super helpful with the sends again, like with these samples. And then I've obviously got the faders. And I can pretty much perform the exact same way I do using the Performance Mixer. Over on this user side, I've just got literally play here and stop here mapped. And that's just the top, stop, and play buttons, just so I can do it from the device. My goal is to never look at this thing after I set it up. So to show you what I've got going on here as far as channel strips, I'm trying to keep it down to 8 channels. I'll show you how I do that in just a sec. I put a utility on every channel and I take that down by -6. The reason I do that is because when these faders are at the top, that's +6, and I'd just be smashing my master bus if I didn't attenuate a little bit. And then having a utility on every channel is super helpful in case one is too loud. I may, in the future, go to user mode and map some of these knobs to my utilities. So if I really need to do some fine adjustments, I can. But honestly, that's really where the faders are for. But, you know, if I need to turn something up, I guess I would do that with the utility. And I have the headroom to do it, obviously, because I'm at -6 on every channel. So we go through, we got kick, clap, hat. This is the new hat by AMT, by the way. Not out quite yet, but we're almost there. We're working on it. And then like the performance mixer, I decided to group a few channels so I could keep my channel count low. So I've got perk 1 and perk 2, and then the utility is just literally on the master. If I do feel like I need to mix these are coming out of the assimilator, so most of the times I end up mixing those on the assimilator itself. Bass, I got something that I think is kind of clever. I'll show it to you real quick. Press play. So right now, where's bass? Why can't I? Come on, man. Come on, man. Oh, because I got some groups open, of course. That's one thing about this. I'm glad I did that on accident. Make sure as soon as you start messing with the MIDI controller that you close all your groups, because it's going to be super frustrating to not know what's happening there. All right, so now I will open it just so you can see it after I turn these channels down. I like this guy because I've got reverb on this channel, or on this knob, which is still just send B. I'm using the Bastel Pizza for bass. I'll do a video on that very soon. Thing is super dope. I'm just using it by itself with its own internal envelope. But I do have, so I got reverb, and then I've got the pulse wave coming out into another input on the ES8, or ES9, excuse me. And then if you look at this sub, I literally just put an auto filter on it. I did put a little resonance on it with cutting off at 200 hertz. And then I've got a sidechain compressor on there. And then I just literally mapped this fader right here, channel 9, to this knob because I'm not really going to use delay too often. And when you have, when you do a mapping, it always just takes over the factory one, right? So now I've got reverb here, but on this knob, I can just turn that sub up. And that's like an un-VCA'd square wave, just literally rolling in there. So if we go over here, we turn off the filter. Pretty gnarly, but you know, just like that, it's just an extra little sub. So when the beat's happening, it's nice to be able to go from something like this and then just drop this in. And then that just kind of gives us that like underlying sub drone that's real nice. Okay, let's turn this guy down. Channel 6 in the mixer, I've got, I've changed it a little bit since the last time, so I was a little confused. I've got these two channels here, Metron 7 and 8. So these are just extra little things in here. Right now, this one's obviously like some sort of chord that I'm not using in this particular track. And then this one, oh, this one's a really cool, like, that kind of sample. So I like to do this one like maybe if I did 4 pages, and then at the very end, I just do a nice long thing like that. Bring these up. And so these ones are grouped. So yet again, sends delay and reverb on those. Got a fly in here, sorry about that. Ugh. But that's like an extra little thing there. With those ones, the only way I'm going to let myself really mute those is with Metron. So I can go into Metron, go into Fill Effects, and then I can mute those just by muting their triggers on Metron. So that's how I've decided to kind of give myself more there. Like with these two perks, for instance, I'm just going to mute that ride via Metron here. So I'm really trying to train myself to use Metron's mutes a lot more, and then use this more for effects, and then I really want to perform on the faders and stuff I can. All right, and so my last two voices really are just these two stereo channels, and these have nothing on them right now. These are just the stereo channels out of the assimilator running through the two overseers. And those are pretty simple, you know, just volume and sends. And then, yeah, I went through and made my sends and returns. I put delay on 1 and reverb on 2. And then I did a little bit of a filter before the delay. I thought that made it sound a little bit nicer just to cut some of those lows. And then on the master, yeah, and then I do have one more track here. This is a lead track. And I'm just trying to decide where I want this thing to go. So basically, right now, I'll just make it so we can hear it. I can go over like that. And obviously the sound, we'll just, you know, there it is. You don't really need to hear it all, but that's it. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to keep that in, if I'm going to put that in this mono voices group, so that way there's 3 voices on there, and I really have to do everything for the mutes on those on there on Metron, or if I'm going to have a 9th track and just scroll over with this button here. So scrolling over works totally fine. It's great, but I have to remember to do that. And I also have to remember to do it if I'm going to do it via the Metron mutes. So I'm kind of leaning toward the Metron mutes right now because I feel like that's what I'm probably more used to. And I'm going to try and really, like I said, train myself to use this more than this for the volume and for the mutes. But I haven't quite decided yet. So I'm just going to leave it out for right now. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is my master section. And this is the thing that I need to kind of just perfect a little bit. And then I want to put this up so y'all can download it, because it's super simple, super easy, and also really helpful. All right. I'm going to open up all of the things. So the first thing we've got in here is I've just literally got like a glue compressor, and I've got no threshold on it. I turned up the gain a little bit, make up a little bit, and then I turned soft clip on. That just gives me a little bit of that like analog warmth crunch kind of thing. Take it off. I don't know. I just like that. I want it to sound a little bit more saturated, so that's why that's on there. And then after that, I've got a high pass filter and a low pass filter, and those are literally just mapped to these knobs on the audio effect rack. And then I mapped these 2 knobs to those. So whether device is on or not, doesn't really matter. It just takes over those knobs. We don't need panning, and this whole row is dedicated to panning. So what do we even need that for? We don't. So I just am using it like that. And then over here, I've got another audio effect rack. And this is something that I always do that I'm kind of proud of. So basically, I've got the dry signal, and then I've added 2 more chains. One is for reverb. I cut the lows right here with the 3-band EQ. I've got a utility here, and so that utility is mapped to this knob. And as I turn that up, we're just feeding signal into this reverb, and then this reverb is 100% wet, or should be at least. And now we've got a big old master reverb for big old swells, right? And then on the delay, the exact same thing. I've got a filter going into it instead of the EQ3 apparently, but whatever. And then I've got a utility, just turning the gain up going into that. And then again, 100% wet, should be. And then that filter helps it so that way I can leave the kick all the way in, leave the lows all the way in, and still send it to these things. But this is nice to like do a drop, right? So do one of these. Go back. Nice little drop. So yeah, that's basically it. This is something that, like, you know, very simple. And then I literally just took these two knobs and routed them, mapped them to the master or the bigger audio effect rack, so I can just close that one out and everything scrunches down. Right now I've got a limiter on the end, just kind of taming the whole thing. I will probably do a little bit of master processing, might put a multiband on, might just throw an EQ8 on here and keep it flat, but if I really need it at like in a venue during sound check, I could mess around with the parametric EQ just a little bit. I probably won't do that too much, to be completely honest, but I might. But yeah, that's it. It's just literally trying to make my case smaller and make my, like, what I have to take smaller, and also like worth a little, shouldn't say worth less, but because, you know, I've got a super expensive computer here, but I've got this guy. But one of the reasons why I'm doing this that I wanted to talk about was that I'm going to bring a computer with me everywhere I go anyways, right? And like, the more gear that I have to bring is more weight. So if I bring a mixer, an external mixer, or I bring the 12U, that's just more weight and more stuff. And I keep thinking about, like, oh, I really want to do a drum machine. I might, you know, use something else for like a black box for looper, for like extra loops. Black box is great, doesn't weigh that much, it's tiny, I get that. But I can slim down if I end up putting some of those loops in here, then I don't need to take that. The one thing about the computer is it's always easy to just go too far with the computer. Clocking from it has been nothing but nightmares for my entire life. I finally got a brand new MacBook Pro M2, and I'm clocking from it using CV tools, and I'm having no issues. With my 2017 MacBook that was maxed out, when it would get hot, it would send out double triggers every once in a while, and it would throw my Metron off. I've had some people call, reach out to me about Metron, and them thinking that it's getting off when you're sending a clock to it. The 4 PPQN clock, 16th notes, is rock solid. It'll take it rock solid in. It'll be fine as long as the clock going in is good. I've actually recorded my old laptop and found double triggers in the recordings where it skipped. Super big bummer. I have not had this issue with this one. Y'all also know that I was using the Push 3. I bought a Push 3. I've since returned it, decided to spend the exact same amount of money on a brand new computer, and then I got this for $100 on Craigslist or Facebook. So now when I travel, I got the 6U, I got this little guy, and I got this computer that I'm going to take with me anywhere, anyways, because I'm going to use it for work and emails and, you know, stuff like that, advancing shows. So I might as well just use it for music as well. All right, and there's one thing I forgot to show you that I wanted to do real quick. Cueing on the Performance Mixer is super helpful to be able to hear something pre-fader. When you have an audio interface plugged in here, you can set cue out. I don't know if my outputs are configured. There we go. So I go stereo outputs 3 and 4. Headphone output on ES9 is 3 and 4. So now you can just hit this cue button. You hit solo, actually, and it'll turn it to cue, right? And now, anytime I hit any of these, I will get a cue, and I'll get that sent to the headphones. You do need to go into ES9's configuration and turn off in the headphones. You need to turn off 1 and 2, USB 1 and 2. You only want USB 3 and 4. But that's pretty simple to just look up on ES9, turn that off, and now you won't hear anything in your headphones until it's in the queue. That's the one thing. It's a little harder to do a queue mix, but you know, it is what it is. And then over here on the XL, I just hit solo, and now these buttons is how I hear stuff in the queue. So that is super helpful for headphones. I don't really have an audio example because it's in my headphones. You're not going to hear it anyways. But that is a super helpful trick just to be able to cue stuff up before you listen to it. So obviously, again, I'm not really going to be listening to the mix in my headphones. That's what the monitors are for. But then if I want to hear something while a fader's down, I can just throw it into the queue. Make sure exclusive ARM is off, exclusive soloing is off in Ableton, and then you are off to the races with queuing, which is really nice. So that's it. That's what I'm doing. That's the live set prep today. I hope it's helpful. I hope it's inspiring. If you dig it, please like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, we'll see y'all next time. Peace.